Did you know that Max Verstappen could trigger his Red Bull exit clause if he doesn't finish in the top 3 after Hungary? And all this amid internal chaos that's dividing the team. What do you think? Do you think Max has had enough of Red Bull? Let me know in the comments. What's really going on inside Red Bull, and what could make Verstappen leave the team that brought him to the top? Max won the sprint at Spa, but in the main race suffered from a failed strategy. Red Bull prepared the car for rain, which never came. The result, a slow car and total frustration for Max. Max Verstappen arrived at the Belgian Grand Prix with confidence. Red Bull had been working intensively on a new update package for Spa, and the team believed these improvements would make a key difference in mixed conditions. Saturday's sprint seemed to confirm expectations. Verstappen was dominant. But that stage win was only a fleeting illusion. When Sunday's main race arrived, everything changed. Red Bull made a risky decision. They opted for a high downforce setup, convinced that rain would be a factor. They based their strategy on data from weather simulations and wind tunnel validations. But the weather, unpredictable as ever, played a trick on them. The storm they had anticipated didn't arrive in time. And while other teams adjusted their setups to a mostly dry track, Red Bull was stuck with a setup that penalized straight-line speed. The result was immediate. The RB21 didn't have enough speed to defend or attack. In Verstappen's own words, the car was too slow. The damage wasn't just technical. What was lost on track turned into emotional frustration. Verstappen was direct at the end of the race. He clearly stated that the team had punished itself by preparing for rain that never appeared. He spoke of excessive drag, of imbalance, and above all, of a disconnect between what the driver needs and the decisions being made from the pit wall. This isn't just a problem from a difficult Sunday. It's the sign of something deeper. The context becomes even more tense when considering the change in team leadership. The departure of Christian Horner, a historic Red Bull figure, opened a new era with Laurent Mekies at the helm. A period that, until now, has failed to generate the same stability or synchronicity between the driver and the team management. Verstappen has won championships with firm, clear decisions, almost always aligned with his instincts as a driver. But in Belgium, that connection was broken. And the effect isn't limited to a single race. Spa could be remembered as the turning point where the internal cracks at Red Bull began to become visible. What happened at Spa was just the visible symptom of a crisis that has been brewing for months within Red Bull. A silent crisis, but increasingly difficult to hide. Because while the team tries to maintain the image of control, the internal reality seems to be going in the opposite direction. Since Christian Horner's departure, the power structure within the team has changed radically. And that change, although strategic from the top, wasn't well received by everyone. Laurent Mekies assumed a more technical and less political leadership role, but his way of managing decisions has caused friction with several key sectors of the team, especially with the most experienced engineers, those who were part of the core that took Verstappen to the top. According to sources close to the paddock, these engineers now feel displaced. They accuse Mekies of imposing decisions without the same level of consultation that characterized the Horner era. And what was once a cohesive team now seems to be operating with parallel agendas. The tension has also spilled over into the relationship with Verstappen. The driver, accustomed to being listened to and supported, has begun to show signs of distrust. Within the garage, it is said that Max no longer has the same direct line to those who decide key strategies. And although his public statements remain restrained, privately he has expressed frustration with the loss of clarity in the team's decisions. But that's not all. In various specialized forums and media outlets within the Formula One environment, rumors have begun to circulate about a possible early planning for the 2026 car. There is even talk of a redistribution of resources that could be limiting the development of the RB21. If this is true, we would be facing a risky decision that sacrifices the present to invest in the future. Something that doesn't fit with Verstappen's competitive urgency, especially when his exit clause depends on immediate performance. Some insiders claim that the Verstappen family has pushed internally to return to a more technical and less rigid leadership model. They're not just looking for results, they're looking for guarantees. Consistency, commitment to the short-term project. Because they know that any deviation now, in the midst of a fight with McLaren and Ferrari, could be costly. Even former drivers and analysts have begun to warn of internal deterioration. Johnny Herbert, for example, recently spoke of fundamental cracks in Red Bull's operations. He mentioned controversial decisions, a lack of cohesion, and a potential talent drain that could weaken the team's technical structure at the most inopportune moment. After the Belgian Grand Prix, that discomfort became evident. Max didn't directly criticize his team, but made it clear that the strategic decisions frustrated him. He spoke of imbalances, a lack of technical dialogue, and a lack of understanding of some setups proposed for the weekend. It was subtle, but powerful. Between the lines, the message was clear: something isn't working as before. And that, coming from Verstappen, can't be overlooked. Internally, Red Bull is trying to handle the situation cautiously. They know they can't afford to lose the driver who has been the driving force behind their recent successes. Helmut Marko, a key figure in the team, has tried to calm the waters by assuring them that the team is confident in the update package for the upcoming races, and that Hungary will be the real test. What Verstappen is asking for isn't promises. What he needs is execution. Immediate results. Clear technical answers. Because at this point in his career, he's not interested in speculating about distant futures or reconstructions. He's at his best, and every race counts. Furthermore, there's a factor that complicates everything even further. There's a specific clause in his contract. If Verstappen isn't in the top 3 in the championship after the Hungarian Grand Prix, that clause is activated. And with that, he'd be free to explore other options. It's not just a formality. It's a lever of pressure that puts the team on the ropes. And Red Bull knows it. That's why they're accelerating updates. That's why they're reorganizing technical processes. They're not just looking to improve the car. They're trying to regain the trust of their star driver before the damage becomes irreversible. Laurent Mekies, for his part, has tried to remain calm. He acknowledges that the latest improvements have improved performance, but admits that they don't resolve the underlying problems with the car's balance. He acknowledges that work is still being done on the aerodynamic platform. However, that caution isn't enough to allay Verstappen's doubts. Because Max isn't waiting for explanations. He's waiting for results. The next few days will be decisive. Red Bull has no more room for experiments, miscalculations, or failed strategies. What happens at the Hungarian Grand Prix will be decisive. Not just in terms of points. What's at stake now is much greater: the continuity of the driver who underpins the entire project. The pressure is absolute. From management to the track crew, everyone knows they're facing a test of no return. The upcoming updates have already been confirmed by Helmut Marko. Major changes to the diffuser, modifications to the car's floor, and tweaks to the rear suspension are planned, seeking to give the RB21 more stability in fast and medium-speed corners, precisely where the car has shown its greatest weaknesses. But the real question is whether these improvements will arrive in time. Verstappen isn't asking for miracles. What he demands is consistency, progress, and clarity in the technical direction. He wants to see that the team is willing to fight every race as if it were a final. He doesn't want simulations to be prioritized for 2026. He doesn't want resources to be transferred without first exhausting every opportunity to optimize the current car. He needs clear signs that the team hasn't given up prematurely. And Hungary could be the breaking point. It's a circuit that demands precision and balance, aerodynamic efficiency, and good response in linked corners. An environment where mistakes are costly and where technical improvements cannot remain mere promises. If the RB21 shows its shortcomings again, and if Verstappen misses the podium again, the clause in his contract will be ready to be activated. And that would change everything. At the same time, if the improvements work and the team responds with determination, Hungary could mark the beginning of a reconstruction. An opportunity to find their rhythm again, to rebuild internal confidence, and above all, to show Verstappen that he still has reason to believe in Red Bull. Everything will depend on the level of execution. Intentions aren't enough. Theory isn't enough. What's needed now is an impeccable response on the track. A tangible sign that Red Bull remains a team capable of solving its problems under pressure. Because otherwise, the summer break could become a very uncomfortable time of reflection for all parties. Everything we've seen so far isn't just a bad run. Nor is it just another technical dispute. What's happening at Red Bull after the Belgian Grand Prix represents a real turning point. A sign that something profound is coming undone. The mistakes at Spa, Verstappen's frustration, the rumors of an early reshuffle, and the internal tensions following the change of leadership are creating a scenario that's increasingly difficult to sustain. Red Bull is no longer the unshakable fortress that dominated Formula One with confidence and clarity. The same driver who led the team to the top. The same one who has proven capable of performing under any conditions. Today, he's not just asking for technical solutions. He's asking for guarantees, consistency, and a shared vision of what's next. In short, what seemed like a simple conflict over a poor strategy at Spa has revealed a much deeper fracture. A team torn between its present and its future. A structure that, if it doesn't act quickly, could let its most valuable asset slip away. And the doubt we raised at the beginning is no longer an exaggeration. It's a likely scenario. Verstappen is evaluating. He's gauging responses. And if Hungary doesn't give him solid reasons to stay, he could make a decision that rewrites the entire landscape of Formula One. That's what's at stake. And that's why all eyes will be on what happens in the coming weeks. Not just for the results on the track, but for what's decided off it. Because championships aren't just won with speed, also with vision, with alignment, with leadership. Red Bull has little time, and only one real chance to keep Verstappen before history starts to go in another direction. Now I want to know your opinion. Do you think Verstappen is leaving? Or is there still time for Red Bull to convince him? Leave it in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.